So I just switched to network. Can you still hear me? Can anybody
Yes, we
confirm they
can hear you
can?
now. Yes, we
All
can
right,
hear you
so
now.
good afternoon. We've already spent so much time, so I'm just going to quickly go ahead and get started. So this webinar is um give me a second, I'm trying to share my screen. It's focused on your getting your first either first set of users or first set of paying customers through better landing pages. And I'm guessing we've done the meet and greet around the room. Before we get started, how many people on this call are or have been engineers? How many people I see SCN, I see on math. How many people have been engineers? How many people are founders? How many people want to make that transition? Want to start already starting your own business? Oh, here, nobody. All right, I said at least SCN. Thanks, SCN. I'm assuming others haven't found the keyboard yet. That's the assumption I'm just going to go with for reasons personal to them. Others haven't found the keyboard yet. With SN in mind and people like SN, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Um, Give me a second. So the topic is how to build high converting landing pages and grow your paying customers. This is the first in the series of presentations that we'll be having. At the end of this talk, I'm going to talk about a follow-up program, which is still very free for people who want to just find that entrepreneurial path for themselves. Yeah, so I'm sharing my screen. Let me know when you can see it. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Can anybody see my screen? Can somebody confirm they can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'll still assume you can. So what exactly is this? What's this thing about? This Today we're going to be talking about principles that have personally applied since 2021. I'm sure here I've applied in over 50 startups now including on my video. I'm hoping that the network or the lighting allow. Just let me know when network becomes really bad. I have to turn off the video again. But we've applied in over 50 startups since 2021, and we've helped a bunch of them get those first set of options customers down the lane. Now, let's be clear. This is not, there are multiple things you can do when you have an idea, when you have a product, when you have something you're trying to get the first set of people to come check it out. There are multiple things you can do. This is not talking about everything. This is talking about a very specific thing um, you're doing at the very beginning. So this is not, if you have a product that's already in use that you're trying to grow the number of people who use that particular product. There are multiple principles, there are multiple ways you could do that. This is very specific on you finding new niches, finding new ways. and finding new people that's finally converts to become paying customers for you. Um, what is what is this? What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about these particular frameworks. If they feel familiar to you, that's great. That means you have one less thing to worry about. If they don't, just hold on. By the end of this conversation, you're going to be very familiar with what they are, what they represent, and yeah. So who am I? My name is Innocent Samadi. I've actually been a software engineer. Been paid as a software engineer since 2009. Started my first enterprise in media in 2014. Um, as of 2019, and then until now, I've actually launched over 7 different product services and still write code. So that's the good thing. I'm guessing you're here because you want to start a business. You've thought about it. You've played with it, and you're you're like, yes, this is the right time. I have something in mind. I want to go ahead and do it. Or you've taken the product step, which is like you've actually built something, or just set up finished service, and you want to go ahead and see how far you can take it. Or you've taken the business step, which is you've registered a business, you've gone all in, and yes, you've decided that this is the path you want to do. You've put your money where your mouth is, and you're just starting those baby steps. And typically, you've taken the first step, or you've taken more than the first step. You've taken one of these steps, so congratulations. It's not easy to do that. Unfortunately, um, while congratulations are in order, the blood and truth is that the first step is not the hardest. The first step is just one of those steps that you're going to take. That um, while the people tell you generally that yes, when you do the very first thing, once you've made that commitment to start, you've gone half of the way. The truth is that when you make the commitment to start, you've not done anything, you just started. So that's all. I'm hoping that by the end of this conversation, you have a very good sense of what kind of things you should be doing as you go ahead. 9 in 10 startups will fail. That is the truth. That means that if you're worried about failing, just go ahead and start so that you can just fail as fast as possible and move on with your life. Don't be worried about failing at all. As a matter of fact, be very comfortable in the knowledge that you could fail. All right. So just let's get out of the way. Now the question is, what makes the successful ones succeed? The startups, the ideas, the businesses that finally become successful. Why did they become successful? And I can't tell you all. I can tell you that answer now. But all we're going to talk about is a few things you should be doing, and something you should definitely not do, which is do not build and wait for people to come. Um, Engineers are known to think of code first for every problem. If there's any part, if I'm talking and at some point you can't hear me, just let me know. So engineers are known to build first and wait for people to come. That's pretty much the mantra. What you want to do is the exact opposite. You want to, as early as possible, go after your market, start talking to people quickly so you can start getting that feedback um, and putting it to be in your product. But also, it helps you identify the people who will pay for your product and start curating them. So that when you do have a product or as you launch, you have a few people to go talk to. So the question first brings like, how do you define your markets? I think the first is pretty obvious. You define the problem you're solving. Again, most of these things here, I'm breezing through them because we've spent some time at the beginning of the lecture, but just hold on. There are things that we're going to take time to talk about, right? And to just hold on for that. As I said, you want to define the problem you're solving. I'm going to give an example. If you are, if you want to, if you want to sell hair, for instance. Okay, now I'm talking to engineers who are game founders, so that example doesn't apply. Even if some people might want to sell hair, but let's be a bit more. Like, if you want to a payment issue because you feel like fintech is a hot thing and you want to help people with settlements and payments, you can find a payment provider to leverage their APIs and put out a product that helps people with some level of payments or settlements or whatever part of fintech you want to offer. One of the first things you need to do is find that problem. And be as specific as possible, at least to yourself, right? The second thing you want to do is define the who will use your solution, right? This this is where I myself have gotten it wrong a bunch of times. A few people have gotten it wrong a bunch of times. There was a there was a startup we're working with that was building. I was a product manager. Like he was a product manager in his day job, and based in the UK, he was building a tool to help people transcribe um, interviews, so that when they hold user interviews as product people, they're able to just like go back to it. And they don't need to keep notes. You have a tool that just keep detailed notes for you and just go back to it. That was what he felt was the problem. When it came time to define who will use the problem, it was easy to define managers. But when like he came to us, we sat down and talked about it, and he was very convinced it was product managers. But when we started talking to people, we realized that product managers were fine. They were not, very few of them were looking for detailed notes after the meeting. Very chances are the product manager has a bias. He already has a clear way. In fact, he's trying to record the call with Zoom or Google Meets, and he's not looking for that. The people who were actually looking for that kind of solution were salespeople, right? And when brought it back to him, it was like, oh, okay, wow. It was surprising because when we did some follow-up tests, it was validated that yes, it was actually salespeople. So he had gone ahead to build a solution, but he built it for the entire for a very wrong group. And we now had to spend the next 6 months trying to redefine the target audience, redefine the messaging, redefine the scenarios that we're putting up, redefine the campaigns we're running. Right. So that's why you can't get it right. So you can't get this wrong. You have to know who exactly will use your solution. Um, the third thing, and this part is as important as the second, is you have to really clear how your target user wants to solve the problem. Right? It's not enough to say the salesperson will use a solution or the product person will use a solution. Like, what exactly would they be doing? Like, this is where user stories come in. As a user, what happens? Or at what point? What's the trigger that's going to make somebody feel like, yes, this is the solution I need to use? What is the solution I need to use? It needs to be really clear. Then the third thing is like be clear on who will pay for your solution. It's not enough to it's not enough to get a person who says this particular app you're building, this particular service you're rendering, I it's going to solve my problem in this way. You need to also be clear who will pay for it. And I'll use the same example like I used with the guy in the UK who was building a solution to help people transcribe um, interviews. He's had user interviews in mind. At the end of the day, it turned out there were salespeople that was looking for a solution to that problem. But when it got time to find who will pay, it turned out that it was not even the salespeople who were going to use the solution were not going to pay for it, right? They like the solution, but they're not going to pay for it because most of the time, salespeople work within an organization and don't pay for their own tools. The person who pays for the tools is the owner of the organization or the organization in a way. So that means there was a lot of mismatch in how they run the campaign. And as I said, we spent the next 6 months just groveling on the path to correction. You want to do it as early as possible. Be super clear who's going to pay for this thing that you're trying to do. So again, this I remember I said some parts that might be confusing to you. Just hold on at the end. We're going to have a workshop session, not today, but I'll tell you when we're going to have the workshop session. where you're going to put practically put those things in use no matter the step that you are in your process. And so just stick with us to the end. Let's dig into defining the problem you're solving. The first question you want to ask yourself is like, what do I think is the problem, really? And we'd made an assumption. So, given an example of the partner person, I'm also going to give another example of a travel agency I worked with in 2022. Lady wanted to do something different in the and what was the problem she was trying to solve? So people go most people go find their travel agents by referrals, even though they're a bunch of travel agents. People find a travel agent by referral. So if you don't have a large enough crowd, it's like a large enough network, finding a good travel agents becomes not as easy. So what she was trying to do is create a marketplace for travel agents, help people find travel agents as fast as possible and the right travel agents, almost as if it's their friends talking to them. So be able to, it's almost like a network or a social network for travel agents, able to see who your friends use, what they think about them and stuff like that. I think that was the idea. So she felt the problem was people not knowing enough people to find travel agents. When we started talking to people again, we realized that people don't have a shortage of people around travel agents. What people are looking for is the cheapest possible, so is the best quality of travel agents for the best price. So the price was very important. The travel agent was not the travel agency. The problem with travel agency was the fact that you don't want the travel agent to go load a flight that is very, very expensive, right? You want the cheap flight that will not kill you. So for that's asking, what do I think the problem is? Right, that's the first thing that you want to ask yourself, right? And you want to get as possible. The second thing you want to ask yourself is what do others think is a problem? Right, the people you're talking to, what do they define as a problem exactly? Um, why? Remember, what is important. Try to do, you shouldn't try to build a landing page if you don't know the answers to all these questions. It's very important, and that's what we're going through then. The second thing is what do others think is the problem? Now, remember the travel agencies example I made? See the first one, the lady felt like the problem was that people didn't know enough people who refer great travel agents to them. But then when we went to talk to other people then informed us, actually that was not the problem. The problem is that they wanted entry flight. So whichever travel agent is great, gives them cheap flights and will not break the bank. They're good. So those are two different problems, and defining it early really like reduce the mismatch in the messaging that was going to go out. And thus the third thing is like how much of a problem do others think this thing is? If it's great that you want to help people pay for their DSTV, that's good. Do people have a problem with paying for DSTV? I don't know, maybe. But how much of a problem it is it enough problem that people will say, I will pay you to help me pay for my DSTV? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe to people who look football and matches that it's like die hard to them. Maybe they have alternatives. Or maybe they're like me, right? If the payment doesn't go through, just close the TV for that month, it's done because we really don't care about it. Right. So you need to know how much of a problem I think it is and why it's much of a problem. Again, all these are gonna inform the messaging that gets to your landing page. And the fourth thing is like, how are they already solving this problem? If you don't know how people are solving the problem you're solving, you've not done your homework enough. You need to go back and figure out how people are solving this problem. You just can't go ahead without knowing exactly how people are solving this problem. And where I'm talking a bit about the customers in 5 days challenge. I'm going to tell you about it at the end. It's entirely free, of course. But all the principles we're going to mention here are going to help you apply it or are going to apply it if you have an eye to a week. Just make yourself available for the challenge so that all the things we're going to talk about to move from like theory to practical because I'm going to be saying something right over your head. And at this point, I want to pause. Is everyone still with me? Are we still together?
Yes, we're still together.
Yes. Okay. Okay, great. Um, awesome. Okay, so we're still together. Does anybody have any questions so far? Hope I'm thinking by the hands not raised, it means there are no questions. Okay, then. So let's go straight into the landing pages. All right, so selecting your customers, the landing pages. Let's talk about it. Why would you use a framework for writing landing pages? I'll tell you the truth is all the best landing pages I've ever seen, I've ever written, I've been part of the development, design, production, marketing process. Always has some sort of framework backing it. And frameworks are just a way to capture something that works or a structure that works so that you only are concerned with the copy and not how the structure is laid out. Frameworks also prevent you from falling into design issues. And what do I mean? Times where a landing page looks great, but it doesn't really help anybody do anything. People don't understand what's going on there. All right. So let's talk through these frameworks. I've mentioned AID, APIs, FAB, free and pass-through. Let's start off from AID. AID stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. All through my talking about these frameworks, you'd realize that a bunch of them can be used together. And if you already have a landing page or something you've worked on, then it's easy for you to go look back and say, wait, does my landing page apply any of this? If yes, how can I improve it? If no, how can I apply it? Um, because again, the landing page should not be just a play. Your landing page should be an active storefront that sells for you. If it's not selling for you, then something is problematic. This particular framework, the AIDA framework, is one of the most common. And the reason it's one of the most common is because it's it captures attention. It goes from capturing attention, building interest, creating desire to prompting action. Let's break it down in a bit more detail. If you've ever seen those landing pages that have, once you get on the landing page, you see one very strong headline that's you cannot miss because it's just really big. Chances are that particular section is using AIDA. Chances are, whether or not they realize it. The first part of it captures attention with a very strong headline or very strong visual or picture that just evokes emotions. But it doesn't end there. Next part of it builds interest. You do this by addressing the visitor's pain points. Remember the part where I say you shouldn't design a landing page if you've not done the research we talked about earlier. If you don't know how to do the research, that's fine. Remember I said again, we're going to go over it on the 5 challenge for those who want to be part of it. But based on what you've learned from your customers at that point, you can then here to start addressing the pain points one by one, and then offer your solution, of course. And the third thing this does is to, right after offering a solution, start highlighting some benefits and also show proof, testimonials, case study, whatever it is, that gets visitor to increase their trust in you or the desire to use you. And then lastly, of course, takes an action. This is still theoretical. Let's look at something practical. How many people are familiar with Paystack? Almost everyone on this call, right? Is anybody on this call not familiar with Paystack? No? Going back to the calls, anybody who's not familiar with Paystack? Okay, everybody is. Um, Paystack is a really good example of this. Very bold headlines. Succeed. The headline, you see the interest. Feels like helps businesses in Africa get paid by one. It's telling you why you should use them. You can see the social proof at the edge, all right, and then you can see the call to action. Right. So splash headline too, very same thing. Bold headline captures attention, build the narrative with interest, and then the call to action. And of course the social proof, everyone is using splash. It's pretty common. Um yeah, it is pretty is a lot more common than you realize. For the first page, I will talk about why it's mostly at the page where you see people the page that visitors come in with the CHM community, same thing with Citrogo, same thing. Now the reason AID is powerful is because it acknowledges that 60% of the people visiting your page would not scroll past the first screen. They would never scroll past the first screen because they are pretty busy. So ADA takes advantage of this to tell as much of your story as possible, as quickly as possible. It's not just it just goes into because people don't have time. It just tries to say enough. Remember the pay stack thing, pay stack kills businesses, very quickly. And I said it's very commonly used in banners. Although the entire landing page could be created with AID. What do I mean? Where the first part just captures attention, the next part is building narrative with building interest with a narrative, and the third part is just rolling like building desire with some examples and features and benefits, and then the fourth part comes the call to action. So the entire landing page could be one whole giant AIDA, but typically it's used in a section and it is in the first section you know. And then this is the final part. It's AIDA aims to convert. It doesn't. It's not just fun. It's not the final part, but it aims to convert. It's not just fancy. That's the thing about it. I'm going to pause for a moment because we just wrote past attention, interest, desire, and action. So, does anybody have any question, Nick? Okay, no question. And we're not doing too good on time. We actually have just 15 minutes more. Okay, one question. Please, Michael, go ahead.
Yes, I want to ask, is this for marketing or this is for entrepreneurship? Because you have not actually got to me. I know
Yes.
this AIDF, is it, what do they call it again? I know about this. It's about marketing. So I want to understand, are we engaging in this program for marketing purpose, for entrepreneurship
So,
purpose, or for engineering purposes?
so that's a really great question, Michael. And I think that the like after now, hopefully somebody flows with Michael on what exactly comments is about. I based on the question, it feels that you're not yet part of the ETF community. So the ETF community is a community of engineers are who want to be founders, who are founders, or who are making that transition to founders, or who are still with engineering and just starting something on the side. Right. And what we do is through talks, webinars, challenges, whatever it is that helps you learn how to build a successful business while engaging in things that are very specific to engineering, right? Like conversations around open source tools, um, conversations around frameworks, or specific meetups with people who You can never see hear me. No.
We can hear you now. We lost you for a couple of.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I said everything we see, everything we do is everything that helps you go from your product to the actual to making your whatever it is that you have to bring to the world successful. Right. One of those is learning how to frame your problem, learning how to frame your problem to your users or to your prospective users, learning how to frame your problem to the places that you want to put your message in. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Please come again.
All right. Awesome. So as I said, if you don't have a problem, if you don't have a product yet, which I think is a follow-up question I have for you, Michael. Do you have a product yet?
No, I don't. I'm into business.
Are you into business? Okay. Are you an engineer?
I have some web development skills, but I decided to focus on the business part of it.
Okay. So
And
this would be in a way
being the one
this would be in
dealing
a way relevant.
in the development
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, that's fine. This is going to be relevant to you on the business end. So are you saying all the things we've spoken about so far, you already knew them?
I took online courses on marketing.
So you already know
So
them.
for the, I wouldn't say I knew exactly what we were talking about, but the AIDF
Ah,
framework,
okay.
I'm familiar with it.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Because I actually do it a lot myself, and I'm glad there's one person here who's also familiar with it. Is anybody else familiar with PAS? Apart from Michael, who might be. Is anyone familiar with it? Okay. Health rights. Please, can you tell us who you are?
All right, so Expert is not really my name. I'm Omole actually. So I'm actually a copywriter, so I know every single formula here, pass, part of, for use and all that. Yeah.
Wonderful. um, I'm only right.
Yep.
So I think there are gonna be there are already a few people that I have who are looking to apply this framework, and I think you might be helpful in helping them also apply it. And also there are people who are worried about whether or not it works. Um, but you can hear from Omale, who's a copywriter, that yes, he also uses frameworks and he knows about this, and he pretty much applies it once or twice, right, Omale?
Yep. Yep. Of course, I've applied it a lot of times, especially the for you and AIDA.
Wonderful. I don't think there's I don't think there's any successful copywriter or results I haven't looked at either. But let's look at a couple more just before we get to the end. Um, and unfortunately, for those who know about it, about these things, this is great for you. That means the pace is not at all anything that's like you're worried about. For those who is the first time they're hearing it, I'm super sorry. We're going to blow through the rest because of time, but also because I I want us to get to a point where we then talk about how we then go into the challenge, which brings us to what's that idea you have? Let us try to use these frameworks and be as practical about them or scientific about them to get those customers and see how just how they work in the field. All right. So thanks for letting us know, Malay. and Manuel. Let's run through this. This the PAS is really you just talking about your problem. You just dig into it, um, and then creating a sense of urgency around it before presenting a solution. Um, Again, I think this is a problem Omole would have faced. Omole told me as a copywriter because as within the agency, I think through my career, I've seen it a bunch of times where somebody comes to you to write a landing page, but you're not quite convinced they know the problem you're trying to solve. Omole, have you ever seen that?
I don't know how I'm going to answer this question, but for as a copywriter, no matter what you tell me, I know that the first thing I'm going to do is to research a lot about your audience, your product, and your competitors. If I don't
So
do that, there's no need for me to write anything for you at all. Yeah.
100%. I think so. Only we've gotten to a point where you see you don't even trust the people anymore because I'm pretty sure. So somewhere subconsciously you've gotten some answers that you realize that you cannot trust, and you just have to do your own research. But
Yeah, exactly.
what if I tell you that as a copywriter, it was not even your responsibility to do the research. If people had processes that they could trust, if Coca-Cola was coming to you to copyright, right? I can assure you, because I've worked with pretty big brands before, there's a lot of research they've already done that you can look at and piggyback on. True or false?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of them have a very good brief, so you can actually pick whatever you want to work from there. Yeah.
Exactly. So the problem is because people don't do the first steps of this thing. So when it comes time to define the problem, it becomes really it becomes a problem. So when you use the PS, you have to be very clear about what the problem is, and then you put it there. Now this way it gets interesting. Um, Here's where you just build the narrative. You have to make it really. It has to be worth something. The impact of that problem needs to be emphasized here, and the consequence of not solving the problem has to be emphasized here. So that the person was not thinking is a big enough problem before, after they come to your landing page, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a problem. This is definitely a problem. Now, for technical people, who, as I said, who don't have experience copywriting, this might be something new. But if you've done the first parts of this well, which is really talk to the people you're solving this for, this would not be a problem. And then, of course, you become the messiah in your own narrative. That's pretty much what it is. And I give an example with this, with a SaaS productivity tool. Yeah. And what time I'm just going to show an example of a company that used this really well. You say, these leads are not going anywhere. Why not they let them help you? Don't let them go to a competitor. You see, it's really like this is the consequence of not going this. They will go to a competitor. It's just, and then it goes ahead to build this narrative, right? They are going to look for somebody who already specialized. If they are going to pay for somebody else, why not them come to you? You know, it makes them it makes them really, oh, okay, what's going on? Should I what? I can't just scroll past this anymore because I don't want them to go to a competitor. What makes the PS really efficient, like to me personally, is the fact that you hook the user in with a question. That's one of the very first thing that you get to see across most um, sections that you see. The user the it's typically starts with a question that provokes thoughts, and then you throw in a level of urgency. We saw the one that we just saw now. That was this gorilla, like level of urgency, and then you address the user pain points as directly as possible. At this point, the users, you've picked curiosity now, they want to see what you have. It needs to be very direct and very specific. There's no room for ambiguity at all. So this is very, as you said, most people don't start, even if I've seen it in the at the the top banner, and it works sometimes. Typically, PIS doesn't start the web page. It comes, it's as I said, it's part of the narrative. As you scroll down, typically after an AIDA session, because it's still building that narrative. And this is very important. It's the aim is to come is just to establish a connection here. I don't It doesn't necessarily have to be have a city on it, like the call to action it specifically. All right. And I've been told that we have just 2 minutes more, so we can't even go through others. What's going to happen? Like, because again we have a hard stop at 3. A lot of this was my fault. Um, I I think for people who have for people who have a particular problem or solution or business they want to see like more customers in, they're just curious as to what they could do. What we've done is to put together a 5 customer in 5 days challenge, and let me break down what that's going to look like to you. So the day one, like first 2 days, we're going to look through your landing page, make updates, and just based off your research, based off asking a few more people, see what which of these framework we could apply and where. And then we spend the next 3 days, this will be the 3 to 4, not 2 to 4, sending those landing pages to people, especially those we've spoken to earlier, and then seeing what they think or seeing if they actually sort of convert. And then by the 5th day, we should have seen some success, at least, or we've seen some failure. Whatever it is, we then start seeing how to create systems around it. Again, this is you have a business you're trying to build, or you have a product, or you have an idea that you want to see if it works. This is best for you. If you're interested in at least seeing this is entirely free. There's no cost attached here. This is just saying that these things that we talked about, we can practically go over them. I think based on the fact that we didn't speak through everything, we might have to let's have this webinar again at the follow-up time and talk about other like the 3 other frameworks. And I'm hoping that by then we've had 1 or 2 people who actually went through with this challenge and was able to get 1 or 2 new customers in a different vertical or just ones that from the product that you're trying to find. Lastly, if you've not joined the community, follow up with Jumoke. I think should introduce yourself up to now, so that you can join. If you're an engineer or a technical person, or at least somebody who's curious about everything technical, that's going to be helpful for you. It's going to be specific for people who want to run businesses, who want to start businesses, and all the things that we're going to be talking about. We'll give enough talks like this one. So things around, we're going to give talks on marketing like this. We're going to give talks on sales like this, of course. We'll also give talks on engineering, like platform usage, frameworks, um, even if it's just things that non-technical people will be curious about, like engaging your technical team or hiring a technical team, everything around that, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about everything that we feel like is necessary to help you build a successful business, or help you build a successful startup. So I do have a few questions. Michael, please go ahead.
I was wondering if she can drop the link to whether the WhatsApp group or where we can register and join.
Um, is Jumoke here? Supposed to have dropped the link. Jumoke, please drop the link. And
Okay.
what I would like to do really is get the next time we're gonna have things like this, let it be a conversation from the group where we talk about like what we'd like to talk about. People also bring up suggestions on what they'd like to learn more of or things they'd like to do. So that we as a community agree on what we want to learn more of. I wouldn't have Okay, I have time for one question before. I don't have the time because it's 2 minutes past, but we have one question. If there is no question, again, apologize for starting this late and not going through 3 of the other frameworks. But hopefully we'll do this again and then we'll go into a bit more detail. Hopefully by then we have a few people who have done a few of them and who have some success stories because they're really powerful. They've been powerful for me. Um, if there are no further questions to me, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your time. Over to you, Jumoke.
Thank you very much, Innocent. Thank you for the webinar. I mean, I was able to learn a lot. Thanks to everyone that joining on the webinar too. So I'm going to add the link to the group now. I'll add it here on the group chat. So I'll just share it with everyone so that you can join the community and get follow-up messages from the community. All right, thank you so much for joining. And I think Sen was already mentioned the 5 days challenge that's going to be going on in the community. So here's the community link. Typing that now. So all you have to do is click on the community, click on the link, and you're going to be let into the community. Follow-up messages will be sent to the community for everyone in on the challenge, and also join the Engineers to Founders community. Thank you very much, Sense, for this webinar. It's been very insightful. And thanks to everyone who joined in. Thank you all. Yes, I would also follow up on everyone who has joined the community for just check in and get more details. Or basically, we've come to the end of today's webinar. Once again, I'll say thanks to everyone that joined. Let's have an amazing day. I dropped the link to the community in the income message. So if you're interested in joining the community, just click on the link. Thank you, everyone.